Welcome back to the Dataliction podcast. I'm so grateful to be on the road still, actually. Yes, we have recorded 2 episodes here. In case you're wondering, we're not always on the road, but we're like, hey, let's do a 2-part series while we're in the road, because we're already talking together anyway. So this is the Road Ahead part 2. And in case this is your very first time and you're like, who are these guys in this car that I'm seeing on this video? Hey, my name is John.
I'm Travis.
And I'm Josh.
And this is the Dataliction podcast. We want to help you take your data, what you've learned, and turn it into the right action to ultimately help you grow your company on purpose. Today, we're going to talk about something that's pretty personal to each of us, and that is what it's really like to build clarity as a job and kind of the perspective of being that frontline consultant. Obviously, we're talking a lot about AI lately, but it's always been the next technology thing. And fundamentally, though, it's around clarity, data clarity, business process clarity, mission clarity, lots of things we can actually go into. So I'm not sure exactly where we're going to go, but I'm going to start us with a quote from Brian Tracy, that clarity is the starting point of all success. And I will absolutely agree with Brian on this quote, that all of the businesses I've been able to see grow, it happened because they had a laser focus and laser clarity. I don't think laser clarity, crystal clear clarity.
I like that one. That's a little bit better.
They have clarity. All right, guys. So let's talk about this. First, let's talk about the reason why clarity matters. So let's talk about the mess first. And let's talk about how we get into the mess, because obviously nothing starts as a mess. When you're doing new construction to a house, it starts with, a beautiful piece of property or maybe then a beautiful piece of forest you have to tear down. Or then if you're going to renovate, it doesn't look terrible at first, but then all of a sudden, as you start working, you make more of a mess. Let's talk about the mess first, because I think that's going to help us find clarity later. Travis, you've been around this a lot more than even the rest of us. Talk about the mess.
Oh my goodness. Well, first off, I have to quote John Acuff here, and momentum is messy, first and foremost, because in order to clean up a room, everybody knows you have to get a little bit disorganized. Oh my. And by the way, we're going through construction zones.
We are safe
and
as
it's
well.
Very, very safe. But I mean, I look around and I'm like, this is not clean.
Oh yeah. We're in the construction zone right now.
And I'm going through rumble strips and everything. I'm getting ready, do Dukes of Hazzard here in a minute. I just got to find that trailer. But it all starts with businesses think, oh, I'm going to implement this new system. And I'm going to do this new initiative. And it's going to be super clean. It's going to be amazing. Yet people are unclear on what's going to happen. The CEO or the executives, they have a really clear mind. They're like, I know what we're going to do. But they're already 5 steps ahead of everybody else.
And they've been living in it for a long time already.
They've been thinking about it. So I have a conversation with my wife, and she's like, I've been thinking about this forever. Or maybe you're dating, and then all of a sudden, the person you're dating, you start talking about marriage. Well, she's been thinking about marriage probably for most of her life.
Yeah.
You as the guy just started thinking about marriage the last 3 months.
You got a little bit of catching up to do.
So we think about that for executives. Like, they're thinking about, oh, you know what? We need to make this change. And our staff, our employees, they're like, wait a minute. I thought everything was fine. And now we have to kind of backtrack, and we have to think about a little bit, like, what is it that we want to, what initiatives do we need to do? And what are we trying to accomplish? But executives, where it gets messy, is they don't allow their employees the time to catch up.
I love that. And I love how you've immediately gone into kind of the social aspect of the mess as well. We'll dive more into that in a moment. The book, The Courage to Be Disliked, it quotes a lot of a psychologist who was a parallel to Freud, but his last name was Adler. So it's Adlerian psychology. He has a quote and he says, all problems are interpersonal problems. And so I love that you're quoting the social side of this. Josh, I'm going to push you a little further. Let's talk about the data, the systems, the technology, the processes. Let's so not about the people side of things. You see a lot of the underbelly of everything of how things work. Talk about the messes that you've seen and maybe what led to those messes originally.
No, that's a great question, John. I think one of the things that is hard in a working environment for all of us is we can fall into this mindset that perpetual motion is progress. So if I am continuing to execute and I'm continuing to work, that means I'm going somewhere. I'm billing hours and I'm looking like I'm accomplishing X, Y, and Z. You actually could be really spinning your wheels. So one of the things that I've looked back on my career, say over the last 5, 10 years, how much time would I have saved myself if I had stopped for a period of time, even a couple hours, and actually planned what was I going to do, ask the right questions, figure out, like, write a narrative of this is what I'm trying to accomplish. These are the main steps. This is what I have to do to execute to get there. Once I have that, going to the topic of clarity, John, once you have that, you're that much more equipped now to actually start making progress. So were you going to say something?
No, no, I was just going to encourage you. You're one of the best question askers that I know. And so you're speaking out of something that I feel like you're really good at. No, I don't want to interrupt you. Keep going.
Yeah. So I want to tie it back into your question on the data side, John, because I feel that, and I going back a little bit on what Travis is saying, what we've both been saying to this point is just jumping in saying, hey, we applied an AI tool. We're doing this with our data. We're executing. We checked the box. Look at this initiative we did. You could really be setting yourself up for failure if you're not taking a step back and asking the right questions. What problem are we trying to solve? Where are the gaps in our organization right now when it comes to data? Who are all the stakeholders that need to touch that data? What do their lives look like? And then how do we make that better with AI by setting data up properly? And I think it's so easy as humans for us just to have this like internal bias where we just feel like we know the answers. Maybe we asked a couple questions, we check the box, and we move on to, implementation. And that's a very, very dangerous thing.
Yeah, Josh, everybody wants to be the good guy for sure. We all are the hero of our own narratives. I'm going to hit on two things that you just said and bounce them back. The first thing is people's identity in the quantity of activity
100%.
and this motion is not progress.
Right. Yes.
Sometimes you're just the hamster on the wheel
Yeah.
and you're not going anywhere. And there will be an identity crisis, thankfully, as the result of AI, because AI will be able to do a lot of the things that have padded in the nonsense of activity that we've done. So I do love the fact that perhaps the mess has happened with people just continuing to add in more activity because their identity is around them being busy as opposed to them producing outcomes.
It's a badge of honor.
Absolutely.
Being like, I'm so busy is almost a thing that like gets credibility or empathy from other people.
I've said it.
Oh, many times.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. The next thing that I appreciate you pointed out. So the mess can first happen, and I'm going to even back up further. The reason for clarity is because there is a mess. I think it's really important for everyone to understand that if you are growing, you have a mess on your hands. Understanding where your mess came from is important because that's how you can clean it up, kind of helps you protect the mess from happening again. And so these are two large lanes that I would see of where that mess might come from. On top of what Travis has already shared, you're referencing people just adding in more and more and more because it helps them feel good about themselves. Hey, I've done it. I understand it. We got it. Go ahead, Travis.
Yeah. And John, I want to add to that. One of my favorite quotes is the risk of insult is the price of clarity. And I've taken that to heart because most people, they're trying to work and they get their purpose and their meaning behind what they're doing. Yet it's over time when they first got hired into that job, they're like, oh, I need to take on this a little bit. I need to take on this more a little bit. And they've got all this purpose that they felt, but it's not really adding any more value to the organization. And then we've got all of a sudden you have executive teams that are like, well, we just need to do layoffs because nobody's really doing anything and it's not adding to the bottom line anymore. And that could have been solved by that person just standing and be like, hey, I just want to make sure what I'm doing is adding value to the organization, opposed to, is this really adding value to what I do and what I'm doing? So I think AI, like, and we throw AI on terms of just everything. So I'm gonna be even more specific. We think that automating some of the manual tasks that we do day in and day out is adding value to the organization, but that's not why we hired you.
No.
We hired you because you're a person who is a thinking being,
Yeah. Yeah.
who is creative, and who is able to think outside of like your personality of what's happening in the job. And that's why we hired you. We
Yeah.
didn't hire you just to sit there and be filling out Excel spreadsheets all the time. Like, that's not like, if I wanted to do that, I would have been like, great, you know what? I'll have a bot in order
Yeah.
to do this.
Yeah.
I wanted your experience, like who you are, the creativity that you bring. That's what we hired you
Yeah.
for, not for pushing paper around.
There's a great additional word to the word creative. Creative is a trigger for a lot of people. A lot of high D leaders hate the word creative. Non-creatives hate the word creative. I actually don't fundamentally believe everybody is creative. That's just my own personal philosophy. That said, I'll lean into a redefinition of the word creative, and that is judgment, a human judgment. Like, you understand what should be and what can be in this world. You come up with new combinations of things together, and there's so I'm just gonna. I like the word creative. I understand what you mean by that, but just for the sake of our listeners, to help them understand that against that contention. But what you have highlighted is fascinating. That value is not just what you do. And I'm going to connect this back to the point I was about to make, is that so often a mess happens because of appeasement instead of purpose for the organization. And what I mean by this is, and we're seeing it for now, we're seeing it with AI. We're going to see with the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, because it's already happened a whole bunch. Okay. Websites, e-commerce, everyone has to have the thing. And so we've seen this before. AI is just the latest clickbait, and that's fine. Appeasement to the board, because the board says, we've got to do something with AI. And so you have someone who's like, I don't know about AI, but we'll just appease the powers that be. Here's this extra new thing. And you don't strategize, you don't apply things. Well, guess what happens? You're going to go burn a bunch of money. You're going to fall into that 95% of people who their AI has failed. We just met with some of the, top consultants in Indianapolis for AI over there at Engineering. And Caleb is saying, no, the reason why they're failing is because these are being done for appeasement and they're not connected to the actual business itself. So now, in terms of the mess happens when you're not doing things on purpose, most often. Or I'm going to give us one thing further, when you don't finish the job. And that's one of my probably most feared problems in an organization, is when we try something, we don't finish something. So then not only do we not get the results at the end to figure out if we even succeeded or failed, because we just purposefully failed because we never finished the actual project, but then now we have a mess, and then the whole room is trashed because, using that kind of construction metaphor and everything. Let's talk about first steps to get out of the mess. I think hopefully we've helped people to start identifying in their organization where they can maybe start cleaning up that room, that team, that place. But now I have the realization that I have a mess on my hands. I know that I need clarity, but man, I don't even know where to start. Where do I start, Travis? What's the first thing I need to do if I'm going to start applying clarity inside of my business?
I'm going to say something shocking, and I don't mean it to be for shock value. Sometimes leaders need to swallow their pride and admit that they didn't roll it out correctly.
And would you say that internally, or would you literally go to your team and say this? Because I know there's a balance between how honest we should be. You can be fully honest, but not give them every detail. And so, are you talking about standing up in front of your team saying, hey, I was wrong?
I'm saying, yes, exactly. Standing up
Wow.
in front of your team, saying that, hey, I was trying to roll this out. I clearly did not do it in the correct way that hit everybody's communication bucket, and taking ownership of that, is going to go actually further than a leader that goes up there and says, you guys have all done this wrong and you didn't communicate with one another. The communication starts with the top down. And just by admitting that, you're already 75% of the way there, because then it becomes grace to your leadership or to your employees. Say, oh, you know what? I've done that too. Because who hasn't been in a relationship? Who hasn't been in a room where you're like, I probably could have laid this out a little bit better for you to understand where I'm wanting this to go, where the company should be going. And you know what? I got ahead of the horse. I was way excited about this new AI initiative. I knew that we were supposed to do something. We've got the board talking to us saying, what are we doing about it? And I just got ahead of myself. Guys, right then and there, that opens up a lot of guys saying, now let's go fix it. Because people want to fix things.
Yeah.
Like, we're natural problem solvers.
Yeah.
And that opens up the room. Say, okay, well, how are we going to fix this? And then it might lead to, Josh, your great questions on what business problem are we going to solve for this? Who's going to be involved with it? So on and so forth.
Yeah,
So
thanks,
Travis, one quick question on that,
Yeah.
kind of going a little bit more down that thread. Do you feel like part of the danger that gets a leader in that spot in the first place is they feel like they have to figure it out themselves and not involve other people from their team and get other perspectives?
Yes. So I'm going to differentiate a couple of different leaders here. There are the leaders that are in that, like, hey, I'm in 5 million to 50 million range. And those leaders have the greatest risk of, I've got to figure it out on my own before I can teach it to my employees, versus leaders that get into like the 100 million or 50 million and 100 million plus. They realize that I don't need to know everything. I'm going to trust my team in order to do this. And that's why I think you see actually more AI adoption. In fact, actually, there's several studies out there. There's more AI adoption in larger organizations than there is in small to mid-sized businesses.
Interesting.
Because I feel like leaders are trying to figure this out on their own. And I'm going to tell you, you're not going to be able to figure out this new wave of AI, because it's like saying, please understand the ocean. Well, yeah, I can understand the ocean, but I don't understand all the creatures in it. I don't understand the waves of it. I don't understand how it interacts. I don't understand the pollution of it. Well, that is so deep. And that's what you're trying to do with this new technology. You're trying to make sure you understand all of it. And it's too far and too deep for you as a leader just to try to understand it alone.
Yeah, Travis, Craig Rochelle says people would rather follow a leader who's always real than one who is always right.
100%.
And I appreciate you pushing the leaders to start this cleanup, and even hearing you talk about things, putting myself into the mind of that employee being in one of two meetings. The one where the leader says, hey, you know what? This is on me. We need to fix this together as a team, but I just want you to make sure and own it from the top down. Man, I feel energy from that, as opposed to the leader coming in and saying, hey, you know what? This has to change. These things have been a mess, and you know who you are. The room just loses all of his energy, just sucks the air out of the room.
You stole that from your employees. You
Yes.
stole them to be able to fix it, to that they're the problem.
Yeah.
And to get their buy-in. You need the buy-in.
Yeah, you definitely 100% need the buy-in.
They're the ones doing it anyway.
Absolutely.
So why not? You as a leader have to be able to take that on. And I know that, like, we all talk about, being servant leaders, and we've read some of those books, and some people are like, well, they're just weak leaders. No, I consider those people, like, for example, like, there are several great generals out there that get into the trenches and they understand what's going on with the boots on the ground with their staff, with their employees. And that's what made them great. I want to give you an example. One of the times, like, I was leading an organization, and we literally got this new initiative we were rolling out, and I was super excited about it. I was like, team, like, this is where we're going. I'm really, really excited about it. I'm going to let you guys do it. And I left the room. They come back to me a week later and they're like, Travis, we don't have a clue on what you want. We don't understand it. We feel like we haven't been heard. And I was like, you know what? Okay, I clearly did not talk to each of you in a way that you needed to understand the communication or to understand the information. And it was because I'm a very high I. I understand myself. I get really excited really fast and think about this stuff. But then I don't go down to the detail. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to give them all the freedom in the world. They did not need that. They wanted clarity, they wanted vision, and they wanted specific details. So now when I get ready to do initiative, I write out my details, I write out the clarity of it, and I say, okay, for everybody in the room, this is what I'm thinking. Now, you have freedom in order to change, push back, give me your own thoughts. You guys have done this often. And I'm like, okay, well, that's great. That if I didn't have the bullet points in order to talk to it, it would have fallen flat like this had in the past.
Travis, you have definitely gotten better with clarity over the years. I appreciate that about you. I've been working with you long enough to affirm that in you. And I'm not saying that tongue in cheek. That's true. Josh, let's talk about the idea of data clarity and translation. Because especially the larger that an organization gets, you'll have leaders who do understand where the mess came from, what they need to do from their perspective, which is usually at a very meta level, very macro level. But then you have all the way down to the zeros and ones inside of the system and you have to translate the mess in order to then translate into clarity. So what are some, ways that you would recommend to start rethinking, to translate, document, whatever it is around data? Because data is ultimately the lifeblood of any type of an organization that is growing. You're a wizard at this. And so I'd love to hear your wisdom on clarity from a mess inside of the data.
Yeah. So one of the areas where I have made mistakes many times before is I have only thought when I'm building a tool or I'm trying to visualize data, it's really easy to think that the goal line is just delivering the tool. I built the visuals, I organized the data. Hey, team, here it is. The problem is that is not actually the goal line. You have to go much farther than that to figure out, okay, how do I train the people to understand what the data means? How do I make sure that I have related it to each of the different departments and their core needs? Because there's been many times where I've debuted a tool and I've thought it was awesome. But then the other people are sitting on the other end of that Zoom call or on the other end of the meeting, and they're like, yeah, but I needed to do this, or this.
They just don't get it.
They don't get it or whatever. And so I feel like it's really easy when it comes to data to think of, I just got to execute, build it and release it, and I move on to the next thing. And actually we have to think a lot further than that to figure out, how does it integrate into the organization? How do I make sure people are comfortable using it? How do I build a feedback loop after that to make sure that I am interviewing those people and understanding, hey, is this helping you? Is this improving your workflows? Is this giving you the insights you need? So John, when it comes to like clarity and mess, I think we unnecessarily inflict some of that on ourselves by not thinking beyond the release of whatever we're building.
I don't want to scoot over that too quickly. That when it comes to any new thing that you are doing, its effectiveness is only as much as people understand what you are doing.
Yes.
Like that seems completely just expected. Like, oh, of course.
It's so easy to miss.
Oh, it's so easy. And especially as the teams get bigger, you're, across departments. And I'm going to tell you what, having worked in technology and health insurance, the differences between the frontline advisors of people helping families get on health insurance plans and then the people that are building the zeros and ones on the back end for the actual technology. The reason that company succeeded was because there was a connection from the designers of the software to the advisors of the actual plans themselves. So then the designers of the software were able to funnel the things back and forth, like, hey, we're going to design this. Does this actually help you with what you're doing over here?
Yes.
And there was really good communication. And so, kind of to wrap up and aim toward landing the plane here for clarity, I want to give this piece of data here that companies with shared visibility across their teams shared visibility of mission, shared visibility of purpose, same language, okay, all these different things are 3 times more likely to sustain double-digit growth. And so that's what's at stake here. That the mess is this is not me just not liking a messy company. Okay. This is not me just wanting something to be simple and hey, can you edit that down? I don't want there to be 100 steps. I want there to be 5 steps. It's like, no, I'm not just saying that. What's at stake here is not only, I'm not saying the companies are going to die. I think they'll be just fine. But think of how much good and how much growth you can actually accomplish as a team toward your purpose of why you exist as a company simply by saying, you know what? We need to clarify. And so, Travis, for those companies that see they have a mess, owners are willing to lead charge and say, "Hey, I want there to be more clarity." Now, let's talk about what they're going to clarify. Okay, again, they've acknowledged it, they've owned it. Now they're going to actually start to clarify. What do you clarify first? And where's maybe the lowest hanging fruit of those things that can really unify the team?
Well, first, please, dear Lord, stop trying to rewrite your mission statement for one. Sorry.
I love that. I love mission statements. I have this little secret part of my heart that loves those, Travis. But yes, I agree with you. Don't. It's not. That's not what it's about.
That's not what this is about. This is all around maybe either your business process or really clarity on like what are you trying to deliver to your customer? And whether that is a service or software or that's a product, clarify like what are you actually trying to do with them, especially in a service company, like being clear with your customers on what you're going to provide them. I mean, I've learned that lesson a long time ago.
Yeah, I
Like,
really like that.
if you don't have the right, like if you don't tell them exactly, here's what we're going to do, and this is what we're going to deliver, and continually to bring that up to them, you're going to have scope creep and it's just going to be a mess for you.
That is really, really good wisdom.
So, and the other part of it is maybe it's a product. Well, is it the right product that is serving your niche? Like actually say be like, well, do we need to design something that's totally different to help our customers? Well, maybe that is. So I would say start really getting clear on your product, service, and offerings.
Yeah. I love how you're focused on the people that we are serving because the purpose is never about yourself. Purpose is always other people. Thanks for the clarity on, hey, let's get clarity on who we're serving and how we're serving them. That's great.
Can I make a quick point on
No,
that?
no, please. And I was actually going to have you give your thoughts on where you would have people start as well.
Perfect. So I want to actually piggyback off of what Travis was saying and a really actionable step. So for one of my clients I work with, we were writing out a sequence of sales emails for our prospecting. And we were trying to figure out, okay, what are our key value props of what matters to our customers? How do we explain what we do? How do we show the why behind it? Not just what we do, but why we do it. And what we did was we went to our customers and we asked for testimonials and we asked them very specific questions about why are we valuable? Why do you want to keep us around? How do we make your life easier, et cetera? And we took their quotes and their comments and we folded that in to our prospecting message and we folded that into our website. I think
Wow.
it's so easy for us to get in our own heads and say, I know what my business does. I know the value. I'm the CEO. But when you actually listen to your customers tell it to you, that's really powerful.
That is gold.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Josh, thanks for that. Anything else that you would recommend for people to take their first steps toward clarity? And let's talk operationally. I appreciate Travis's perspective from the leadership, change management, the customer focus, anything internally like systems wise, software, data, anything like that that you might think would be some low hanging fruit to begin clarifying?
Well, I would say that one of the things that I'm going to make a really obvious statement, but I think it is so easy for us to forget this. In order to arrive at clarity, we have to be honest and vulnerable enough to raise our hand and say, hey, I don't have it. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't understand which systems I need to pull together, or I don't know what data I need. And if we don't raise our hand and say, hey, I got a problem here, if we just try to act like we have it all put together, that's going to affect downstream. it's inevitably going to affect the downstream, and it's going to hurt our outcomes. Things are going to be more ambiguous. And so I just think we have to be more vulnerable and admit when we don't know.
Yeah, and I'm gonna, I've already done this once to you, Travis. I'm gonna do it to you as well, Josh. The word vulnerable is quite triggering for a lot of people, especially, it's been used a lot of different ways. English is beautiful and very difficult in a lot of ways. Vulnerable and maybe just open.
Yeah.
And honestly, just humble. I mean, Travis, you started with humility and the idea of openness, humility. C.S. Lewis explains that humility is not being less than we are. It's just being who we are. And I think that us being honest about where we're at is actually incredibly freeing.
Yes.
And it allows us to breathe a little bit more, maybe smile a little bit more, and definitely just going back to that quote from Craig Groeschel, that leaders are followed when they're real, not just because they're right. So, hey, what a cool set of episodes. I mean, we're driving, sun shining.
It's a beautiful day.
Stayed safe through the construction and all that. Hey, thank you for listening to this episode of the Dataliction podcast. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. If you have, can you comment for us? I'd love to see you in the comments, especially if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you have found this, anywhere else. Like, share, subscribe, 5 stars. Reach out to us on what else you'd love to learn. We're actively pursuing new topics, but if there's something that you really want to hear, we literally will get that information. The guests, whoever that is, that's what we're here for. We're learners who help other people learn. Go to our website, sign up for our newsletter. We're putting a lot more content around AI and helping you know what's real, what's not real, because most of it's not real right now, and ultimately how you can help your business grow on purpose. But until next time, again, just in case you missed it the first time, my name's John.
I'm Travis.
And I'm Josh.
And this has been the Dataliction podcast.